Coming up on OC News, a COVID-19 outbreak occurs at one of our local universities. Find out which school. We see plexiglass at store registers and front counters at the bank. But you might be surprised to find out that the plexiglass is not providing as much protection from COVID than you might think. And Demi Lovato's new single is aimed at a very high-profile politician. Any idea who? Stay tuned to find out this and much more. OC News starts now. Welcome to OC News. I'm Bianca Lambert, and thank you for joining us today. OC News is brought to you by the broadcast journalism students at Cal State Fullerton. Voting is in full effect with just 20 days until election night. Orange County has seen record numbers in mail voting already. We send it over to reporter Lauren King, who is live with more details. Lauren?
It is obvious that many people are determined to get out and vote early, despite obtaining COVID-19 and standing in long lines. Despite the hassles that come along with it, people are encouraged to get out and to make their voices heard in this election. This is Lauren King, reporting live from CSUF.
Long lines and system glitches have begun as early voting polls officially opened their doors. But these long lines sure didn't stop the determined voters from casting their votes. Pamela Brown gives us all the details of some of the chaos happening at the polls.
More early voting marked by more long lines. Glitches. A record turnout in many locations by determined voters.
It's my civic responsibility, and I always vote.
Early voting is happening across the U.S., with more states joining by the day. A big first day in Tennessee, hours-long lines and a fresh glitch in Georgia and Texas, where day one shattered records. Harris County, Texas, had the highest early voting turnout ever. But officials in the neighboring county of Fort Bend are adding extra hours of voting after systems problems.
Just want to let everyone know that we are aware of some glitches in our voting system.
The glitch, the wrong date was put into the voting system, and lines didn't move.
It was just disappointing to see some people left, and I'm, wondering, are those people going to make it back in to vote, or, they're just not going to vote this year.
Voter enthusiasm was high in Georgia.
This is a generational election. People have to get out and vote.
And the long lines did not deter voters.
In the primary, we waited about 4 hours, but we're willing to do whatever it takes to get the vote in.
The process, in part, slowed due to the pandemic. Machines are wiped down between voters to prevent the spread of coronavirus. Another issue, not enough bandwidth to process all of the information going through the system, affecting some voting locations Wednesday. Despite it all, Georgia's Secretary of State announced 10% of Georgia's 7.6 million voters already cast their vote.
To sum it up, Georgia voters are excited and setting records every hour.
And in battleground Ohio, early in-person voting tripled from 2016.
I think it's rekindled like a spirit of democracy in a lot of people. It hasn't me, because I've missed votes, but I'm not missing today.
That spirit of democracy felt nationwide. Nearly 13 million general election ballots cast so far.
The Supreme Court has decided to allow the Trump administration to end the U.S. census early. The decision will stand while an appeal plays out in lower courts. At issue is whether the administration's decision to shorten the census count by more than a month should be permitted. The Trump administration say the shortened deadline is necessary to give the Commerce Department enough time to meet a December 31st deadline to report final numbers. That decision was made shortly after a policy that excludes undocumented immigrants when dividing seats in the U.S. House of Representatives between states. A lower court blocked that policy. and that is currently on appeal to the Supreme Court. The Trump administration wants the census count to be completed by the end of the year while Trump is still in office. Chapman University is facing a coronavirus outbreak after reporting as many as 37 new cases yesterday. So far, only students have tested positive for COVID-19. No faculty or staff. 17 of the positive cases were students living in dorms. Another 19 students living off campus, but near the school also tested positive, and one more whose type of residence is unknown. Chapman's resident, Daniel Strappa, released a statement to students and faculty ensuring that they have taken all necessary steps to keep the outbreak under control. Orange County continues its decline of positive COVID testing. The county has reported less than 5 new cases per 100,000 residents. The county remains in the red tier for reopening and is expected to stay there at least through the end of the month. Bearing significant change, Donald Trump's son, Barron Trump, tested positive for COVID-19 earlier this month, according to the First Lady. The news broke out after both President Trump and the First Lady tested positive. As a precaution, he was tested even though he showed no symptoms and tested positive. After practicing safer guidelines and remaining in quarantine, Barron has now tested negative after recently being tested. Coming up, we look into a new trail of COVID-19 vaccines, and will small gatherings be blamed for a rise in COVID-19 wave swarms into Southern California? All that and more after the break.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
A new COVID-19 vaccine is getting closer. Health reporter Kimberly Cruz is here to share how one company will start testing their vaccine on younger children.
Thank you, Bianca. The race to release a COVID-19 vaccine is in full force. One of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer, is planning to start testing its experimental vaccine on children as young as 12. This will be the first trial to include children in the U.S., and parents have already expressed interest in enrolling their children, according to the drug trial researcher. The center says kids between the ages of 12 to 15 will be enrolled in the trial later. As the holiday season is just around the corner, health experts warn that small gatherings may lead to a spike in COVID-19 cases. Dale Forges has the details.
The map says it all. No state is trending in the right direction. 36 states like Colorado reporting a spike in new cases.
We really do have to get back to the basics with regards to our battle against the COVID and do what we can to bring down these numbers because they are alarming.
Alarming to health experts as well.
We don't have this pandemic, this epidemic under control.
CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield says the rise in cases is due in part to small household gatherings.
And particularly with Thanksgiving coming up, we think it's really important to stress the vigilance of these continued mitigation steps in the household setting.
There are reports that some in the White House are advocating for herd immunity, Many health experts believe that could be dangerous.
If you allow this virus to spread, as they are advocating, we are looking at 2 to 6 million Americans dead, not just this year, but every year.
As the war on COVID-19 continues, the battle over a stimulus deal to provide relief drags on, with some House Democrats urging Speaker Nancy Pelosi to accept a proposal made by the White House and Republican leaders.
What I am trying to say, and a lot of members believe, is that what is unacceptable is for us to go away with no deal.
But Pelosi says the proposal does not do enough.
I know what their needs are. I listen to them, and their needs are not addressed in the president's proposal.
I'm Daryl Forges reporting.
You have probably seen plexiglass barriers at checkout counters in grocery stores and retail shops. Many workplaces are also adding them to their designs, all as an extra layer of protection against the coronavirus. But it turns out those plastic barriers are not as effective as we thought. Plexiglass has not been scientifically proven to protect against the droplets that come from sneezing, coughing, or talking. Turns out those popular face shields are also less effective than we thought for the same reasons. But both can work when coupled with social distancing and face masks. That's all for me. Back to you, Bianca, at the desk.
Day 3 has wrapped up for the Supreme Court Justice hearing. Amy Barrett was once again put in the hot seat as she answered from Congress. Karen Kafia discusses the takeaway points of the hearing.
During a second full day of questions, each of the 22 members of the Senate Judiciary Committee has 20 minutes to get answers from Amy Coney Barrett. Republicans eager to move the confirmation process along.
Above all, it's clear that you understand the appropriate role of a judge, just what we're looking for, at least on this side of the aisle.
Making today's session less about questions for Senate Republicans and more about praise for the nominee.
So this hearing to me is an opportunity to not punch through a glass ceiling, but a reinforced concrete barrier around conservative women. You're going to shatter that barrier.
For a second day, Democrats pressed Judge Barrett for answers on the Affordable Care Act at the center of a challenge to be argued before the court on November 10th.
Did you ever write or speak out in defense of the ACA, whether as a academic or as a member of the judiciary? That's a pretty simple question. Could be answered yes or no.
No, I've never had occasion to speak on a policy question.
And so every time you weighed in on it, you said the law is unconstitutional.
After today's questioning, the committee plans to hear from outside witnesses tomorrow, setting the table to vote on the nomination next week and send it to the full Senate for a pre-election day vote.
Since President Trump's COVID-19 news, he has refused to participate in the second presidential debate, which would have been the first ever virtual debate.
No, I'm not going to waste my time on a virtual debate. That's not what debating's all about. You sit behind a computer and do a debate. It's ridiculous.
This now led both presidential candidates to host their own town halls tonight. Former Vice President Biden hosted his town hall in Philadelphia, and President Trump in Florida. Although the second debate was canceled, both parties have agreed to participate in the upcoming third debate schedule for October 22nd. Orange County and Los Angeles County are in some major heat heading into this weekend. Thursday and Friday's forecast projects to be in the upper 90s as we approach much calmer, cooler months ahead in November and December. Next week, expect to see temperatures dip into the low 80s with the clear skies and a breeze. Wrapping up ahead, we give you a score update of Game 3 between the Los Angeles Dodgers and Atlanta Braves. We will also dive into entertainment and report on the latest buzz regarding Kristen Bell and Demi Lovato.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all. If I could go back, I would. But I can't.
Here's the very latest on the Dodger game, heading into the 5th inning of Game 3, down 2-0 in their series against the Braves. The boys in blue got their bats going early and often as they currently lead Atlanta 15-1 in Arlington, Texas. Joe Patterson and Edwin Rios both homered in the top of the 1st inning. The Dodgers also received contributions from shortstop Corey Seager and catcher Will Smith, who both drove in runs off doubles. Max Mucha topped it off by hitting a grand slam to deep right center field, leading the Dodgers to an 11-0 lead heading into the bottom of the 1st. The starting pitcher for the Dodgers is scheduled to be Julio Urias. Walker Buehler pitched in Game 1. Tony Gonsolin pitched in Game 2's losses, and now Ari's pitched Game 3. The Dodgers are still without their top ace, Clayton Kershaw, who is dealing with back spasms. Now for some entertainment news, the day has come. No more free Netflix. Netflix free day 30-day trial is now over. Netflix says it's looking at different marketing ideas to lure new members, but Netflix doesn't leave new members in the dark. Before signing up, the company is now allowing free previews of all movies and shows. Speaking of movies, Frozen's Kristen Bell opens up about husband Dax Shepard's recent relapse after 16 years of sobriety. In a virtual interview with Ellen DeGeneres, Bell says Shepard is now doing better due to the new boundaries the couple has put into place. On an episode of Shepard's podcast, Airman's Expert, Shepard shares that he had relapsed on pen medication following a motorcycle accident. The two are working on a new plan and have also returned to therapy. Shepard will now work on his sobriety, and Bell will continue to be by his side. On other news, Demi Lovato isn't making headlines about her sobriety, but about her singing. She's using her voice for more than just singing. Demi Lovato's Commander-in-Chief is directed to President Donald Trump's calling out his response to racial injustice, COVID-19 crisis, and more. Lovato says, "There's been so many times that I've wanted to write the president a letter or sit down with him and ask him these questions. Instead, she released her questions in a song so the world can hear. Now Trump not only has to answer to Demi, but to everybody listening." The ironic Barbie doll has made an animated YouTube channel that has since gone viral. With more than 3 million views on Twitter, Barbie is making headlines. Barbie is with her new friend Nikki, who is black, having an open discussion about racism. Nikki talks about her experience of discrimination while Barbie listens. They go on the discussion, the issues of privilege and racism, which Barbie validates her friend's feelings. This video was created to help children understand the real reason for current protests and rallies across the country. Thank you, Mateo, for making such an emotional video. That's all we have for today, Titans. Thank you for joining us here at OC News. I'm Bianca Lambert. See you next time.